There was some conversation in the early part of 2025 that maybe prices were going to level off or maybe even drop in South Florida. Well, there are developers rather, that start by buying land that have a completely different point of view. I'll give you a little history of some interesting land acquisitions in the downtown Miami area, which includes Brickell. In 2011, the Gentine Group from Asia purchased the Miami Herald site for $236 million, followed by Ken Griffin around 10 years later at $363 million, a beautiful water site in the Brickell neighborhood. That set a new record for Brickell until December, until last month. Yeah, and last month, Oak Row Equities, OKO Group, which is owned by Vlad Doronin, paid $520 million or $122 million per acre in Brickell. That's a new record. These developers, whether it's OKO Group, whether it's Ken Griffin, they have a different vision of South Florida than all of those folks that thought that prices might level off or even drop here in South Florida. No, it's quite the opposite. It's going in the other direction, and you see it just in land acquisition prices alone. And yeah, I've had people say, well, the piece of land that OKO purchased is really one of a kind. These are all one of a kinds. The fact is, it's not just because it's one of a kind. It's because some of the biggest money and investments in the world are being made now here in South Florida. MLS. For those of you that wonder what last year was like in MLS land, that's multiple listing, that's where we measure all the resale activity of condos and houses. We'll give you those results too, and we're going to compare it to 2023 and 2024. Hopefully this graph kind of speaks for itself. But when you look at single-family homes, together with condos in 2023, there were a total of 63,218 transactions. That's how many of those units actually closed in 2023. Following year, 2024, a little less, 60,000. But last year, a new record, 66,700 transactions closed last year. Please keep in mind that last January, a 30-year fixed-rate loan averaged around 7.25%. Today, it's much less. We'll show you that in a minute. And why? A little uncertainty in the world. As I said earlier, Donald Trump mentioned the word tariffs, and he sent the financial markets a little crazy, a little frightening. It was a little chaotic. And rates don't like chaos. So when chaos happens, the financial markets respond by usually raising rates. But things have calmed down a lot. They've calmed down a whole lot. And you can see it in this example, just in the number of transactions that took place in 2025. Want to see the dollar volume? Let's go there next. Again, I think this pretty much speaks for itself. In 2023, all condos and houses combined from MLS, $53.6 billion in closings. 2024, 52.6. Well, look at last year, $62.2 billion, a whole new record for South Florida in terms of the dollar volume. So you had transaction volume record, and you had a dollar volume record. What's also interesting about the $62 billion is that 70% of all of those transactions, over $1,000 a foot, were cash. Whenever you hear conversations about things like bubbles, that always implies over leverage, no matter what market in the world you're talking about. It's important to distinguish South Florida right now against that kind of a statement because there's more equity in South Florida residential real estate than it has ever experienced in its history. 70% of these transactions over $1,000 a foot were cash. There's many reasons for that. It's not because these American buyers particularly didn't want to pay 6.5% or 7% mortgages. It has more to do with the way the tax structure has been established here in the United States. But regardless, that's an important, very important statistic. Let's go to single-family home inventory. We're going to show you what the difference is between single-family homes and condos. Single-family homes. We're now up to 15,000 at the end of Q4. Single-family homes in MLS active for sale. It's a healthy amount of inventory. I'm happy to see it because there are over 200 companies that are relocating here to South Florida. Centered in West Palm Beach, centered in Brickell Avenue, some in Fort Lauderdale. And a lot of those companies that are moving here, as we've talked about before, the young families that are coming with these companies, $1 million is okay for them. But when you get into the 20, 30, $40 million range, it gets a little bit pricey. You're going to see in this next slide how we broke out that inventory. You've got, of all of that inventory for sale, there's only 159 available for sale in what we call the A group. Let me explain this briefly. An A house is something that's like less than 15 years old. Contemporary in design, usually from an architectural perspective. And it's they're usually waterfront. We had quite a few of them 2 years ago, 459. A year ago, 381, but now we're down to 159. It's an important fact to note because I'm going to touch again on this wealth migration. There are wealthy people, some following these Fortune 500 companies, some coming here for other reasons, descending on South Florida, and they want waterfront properties. And they don't negotiate very hard. When they find the view they want, the house they want, the condo they want, and it's looking at the water, they'll pay. And look what they've done with houses. The average list price of the remaining 159 is $36 million. The B house. Well, the B house is a lot like the A. It's just not on the water. We have a decent amount of that inventory, but not as much as I'd like to see. 2,300 going into 2026. Now, most of the inventory you see is in the C house. That's pretty much everything else. With an average price of $1 million, there's around 12,000 of those for sale. There you find healthy inventory, at least for now. We're not building a whole lot of houses here in South Florida these days because we simply don't have the land for it. So for the moment, that's a healthy amount of supply for the moment.